Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Monday, September 21st. I'm Blair Kerkhoff. Ho-hum, another Chiefs victory on Sunday, only there was nothing ho-hum about the 23-20 overtime triumph against the Los Angeles Chargers. It took an 11-point comeback in the second half to force overtime and clutch play by the Chiefs on a day when they didn't bring their best game. Nobody came up bigger than Harrison Butker, who banged home a 58-yard field goal to win the game. It was his second kick from that distance on the day. No Chiefs kicker had ever kicked a longer field goal. After the game, the Stars' coverage team of Sam Mellinger, Vahe Greorgian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell discussed the game on SportsBeat Live. You'll hear that here. After a break, we'll play the post-game interview with the day's hero, Harrison Butker. So, here we go. Hello. I got buds in my ears, a mask on my face, and I'm in Inglewood, California, along with Vahe Greorgian, where just a couple hours ago we saw the Chiefs put a finishing touches on a 23-20 overtime victory over the Los Angeles Chargers, a game that I did not think the Chiefs would win when we left the third quarter and entered the fourth. So we are going to talk about this, another Chiefs comeback victory. And we're going to do it with Herbie Teope, who is the Chief beat writer. Herbie, how you doing?
I'm joining you, Blair Mask, but I'm going to pretend I'm an NFL referee, so I'm going to pull it down so everyone can hear me talk.
There you go. And Pete Grathoff is here as well. Pete, how you doing?
Good. Quite a game.
Quite a game indeed. Quite a game. And someone else, there he is, the man, the myth, Vahe Greorgian. Sitting about 20 feet away from me, also masked up. Hey, Vahe.
Hi, Blair. Hi, Pete. Hi, Herbie.
What's going on, Vahe?
All right, we got a ton of questions that we're going to get to. This is about us talking about the game, but also those of you that watch us that we really appreciate. Weigh in. Give us your questions and comments, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Okay, I put it out there, Herbie, when it was 17-6, and about the time that Pat Mahomes got sacked, back near midfield, I just figured, okay, it's like the second preseason game. It's messy, it's sloppy. The Chiefs just aren't playing well. This one's not going to go their way, and here we are, a few hours later. Chiefs are 2-0, overtime win. So much to talk about. What struck you most about this one?
Mahomes happened. That's the thing that really stood out to me. But I think, like in the beginning, it was clear this Chiefs team was very sluggish, and I think what might have thrown them off was the fact that they spent the entire week of practice preparing for Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor aggravated a chest injury during pregame warmups, and all of a sudden you have all this preparation for Tyrod Taylor and his skill set. Now you're going against Justin Herbert. I'm positive they have zero film on this guy, and they didn't prepare for him at all. There's no preseason film on him whatsoever. And so now you have to adjust. You have to adjust your defensive mindset from preparing for Tyrod Taylor for Justin Herbert. And they kind of threw him off in the beginning. That first drive, I thought Herbert looked exceptionally well. Their opening drive, they're able to just ram it right down the Chiefs' throat. And then when they were up 17-9, I was like, I don't know if they can win this game. And, of course, we should know better than that, especially last year during the postseason. Many times we wrote them off when they were down, and they somehow find a way to win because of Patrick Mahomes. That throw that he made to Tyreek Hill was just out of this world. It was just unbelievable. Rolling to his right, throwing off of his back foot, 50 yards in the air, on a dime to Tyreek Hill for a touchdown. That's when you knew, even though they were still down at that point, the minute they tied it with the 2-point conversion, the Chiefs were going to win this game.
Well, a couple things about that. So we're in the press box here in Inglewood at SoFi Stadium, but we do have the CBS feed on, and Jim Nantz and Tony Romo said there's one, maybe two quarterbacks in the league that could make the throw that Mahomes made, rolling to his right and getting that much air under the ball to get it to Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill told us after the game that Mahomes overthrew it a little bit. He had to reach out, and that's why he didn't catch it in stride and walk into the end zone that way. He tumbled, did a somersault into the end zone. So, and then let's not forget the 2-point conversion play. that was every bit not as strong armed, but just an incredible throw by Patrick Mahomes to Mecole Hardman that he ran by him, threw back across, and somehow saw in a crowd a little bit of a window for Mecole Hardman, and that made it 17-all. And Pete, I was wondering, what at that point were you thinking Chiefs are going to get this one?
I was, and then the Chargers went on that 10-minute drive, and I thought, oh man, maybe it's not going to happen after all. I got to give credit to the Chargers for just answering. They could have folded right there, and rookie quarterback thrown into his first start. So the game just had a lot of twists and turns, and I think both teams really didn't play great at times, but also came through with big plays when they needed to, especially the Chiefs. Because I'm with you, it didn't look good for a while.
Yeah. I mean, even the game-winning drive for Butker. Well, it's to both of them. The drive that got the game tied to send to overtime, and then the game-winning still had offensive line penalties. A big holding call on Andrew Wiley that I thought the Chiefs were going to win it in regulation the way they were moving the ball, but offensive line, Assembly and Wiley, I think each picked up a holding call on that drive, and they ended up settling for the field goal to send it to overtime. So I guess before we go any further, we have got to tip our hat to Harrison Butker. I mean, my gosh. He told us after the game that he made a 67-yarder in the pregame and a 70-yarder at halftime and was comfortable from 58. And Vahe, were you in on the Butker interview?
I was not, Blair. I was on another assignment.
Deep in work, right? So anyway, Butker after the game.
Hair on fire, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. With the deadlines being what they are, but after the game, Butker has said, look, he's the second most accurate kicker in NFL history behind Justin Tucker, and he said coming into the season, he wanted to take it to the next level, and the next level for him is leg strength. And my gosh, what else can you do but when you're hitting 258-yarders in this stadium to christen this stadium to prove that you've got that leg strength? So just amazing job.
To the leg strength. I mean, I remember in training.
It's funny, Blair.
Go ahead, Vi. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Herbie.
No, I remember in training camp where he had mentioned how he did get stronger with kicking. And that was something that Dave Tobe mentioned, because I remember the first training camp practice that had an arrowhead that was open to fans. He kicked a 62-yarder and a 69-yarder. And don't forget, during the offseason, he had the videos of him attempting a 72 and a 77-yarder. And one of the things that he said that he did during the offseason was he did work on strength and he changed his diet. And the thing that stuck out to me, because I did a story on that right before training camp ended about how he built up his strength. He said when he practices longer field goals, then the 50-yarders just sort of feel easier and they become routine. And for the fact that he's out there practicing 70-yarders at halftime, if you give him anything at 50 to 58 yards, it's probably money in the bank at this point.
So,
by the way, a quick aside on that, Blair, do you remember this? That they came out, the specialists came out really early in halftime. I mean, they were out with almost like 8 or 10 minutes to go in the halftime.
Yep. No, that's right. More than halfway. With more than halftime wasn't halfway through when the field goal team was out kicking field goals. I thought that was interesting as well. All right, how much credit for the offense having 9 points by the end of the third quarter? How much credit do we give the Chargers defense? I say we give them a ton of credit. I was really, really impressed with, because we saw this, we have seen this in years past. The Mexico City game was a dogfight, and Mahomes didn't have good numbers there. And the game at Arrowhead last year, the Chiefs kind of put it away with a touchdown at the end. So what is it about this defense that just really seems to bother the Chiefs and Mahomes?
You've got two elite pass rushers there, and I think that's what we saw today. And that was so impressive to me with what the Chargers were able to do, because you remember we were singing the Chiefs offensive line's praises last week. the way they manhandled the Texans, which also has a pretty darn good defensive front, but they manhandled them. They come on the road here, and Bosa and Ingram just gave Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher all kinds of problems. They were very disruptive in the backfield. Through the first half, Mahomes only averaged 3.2 yards per pass attempt or pass completion because he didn't have time to sit back there and throw it. And what's fascinating to me is we saw now through 2 games, 2 defenses that are taking away the receivers deep. You're forcing Patrick Mahomes to go underneath. And the only way that works is if your defensive end is able to get pressure on a quarterback. And the Chargers worked that strategy very well today until Mahomes happened.
Yeah. Okay, David Ederling says, thought the defense played well, especially considering the missing pieces for much of the game. There were some banged up Chiefs in this game. And let's just start with the players that weren't there. I mean, this is a secondary that's going to be different in a few weeks, isn't it? I mean, Travarius Ward will be back from the fractured hand. Bashard Breeland will be back from the suspension. They lost Antonio Hamilton today to an injury. So you basically had Rashad Fenton back there and L'Jarius Sneed coming up with another interception, it turns out. That's the play that started the sort of a turnaround, because that after that there was the 95-yard touchdown drive by the Chiefs, so it kept the Chargers out of the end zone and started a Chiefs possession. So the linebackers got beat up today. Anthony Hitchens got hit hard. Damian Wilson, trying to knock Justin Herbert out of bounds, got the worst of that deal, and he was groggy coming off. One injury that Andy Reid did not like much, and Pete, maybe you can speak to this, was the Sammy Watkins hit to looks like he got a little bit of helmet to helmet, and Andy Reid, who usually doesn't mention this sort of thing, said in the post game he was pretty upset about that.
Yeah, it looked like Denzel Perryman lowered his helmet, and I mean that looked about as clear a helmet to helmet hit as there is. The CBS announcers didn't really say anything about, wow, that's just kind of a tough hit. I thought he should have been penalized for sure. I was very surprised because you could tell immediately something was wrong, and he went down and was groggy, and you could tell he didn't really know what was going on. So I haven't seen what Reid said. I'm sure maybe Herbie or Vahe can fill us in on that, but that I definitely thought that should have been a penalty.
Yeah, what Andy Reid basically said, I'm going to quote him verbatim here. Quote, Sammy got a hit to the head that I thought was very questionable. He got hit to the head, so we're not supposed to have those in our game. And then Blair is absolutely correct. It's very uncommon to hear Andy Reid because he was very emphatic the way he said that. Granted, there was not a penalty on the play, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Denzel Perryman is not going to hear from the league, because the league does review all these hits. And coaches also on Monday had the opportunity to send film to the league headquarters, say, can you please review this? So I'm sure Denzel Perryman might hear from the league at some point during this league, and by Friday we should know if he got fined.
Yeah, and I don't know about Watkins in the concussion protocol now too. I suspect he could miss time because of that. He really was a tough hit. One other should it not have been a penalty was after the Tyreek Hill touchdown, removing his helmet. And I know that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were, they brought in their rules guy and said absolutely that was officials missed it. That was a penalty. After the game, Tyreek Hill said he didn't take his helmet off. It came off, and he would never do that. That Andy Reid's drilled it into him. You absolutely never take your helmet off. I don't know if there's a replay that shows that. Is that, Pete? Is that something that you wrote about after the game?
I didn't write about it, but it did seem odd the way it just kind of came boom off. He didn't rip it off his head and hold it up like you might expect a player to do. So I wondered that too, if it just kind of came off his head, because he hit the ground and got up pretty quick, but it was a strange situation. So, yeah, I mean, if they would have been penalized there, that would have been a gigantic play, because that would have been a 2-point conversion from like nearly 20 yards out.
Yeah, if they had decided to take the 2-point conversion play, it would have been that's a 50. I don't know if they automatically. It's 15 yards, I think, so it goes to the 17. That may be the rule, but you wouldn't have gone for 2 there. you would have kicked the extra point. So,
Yeah.
Sam McDowell has joined us. Hey, Sam.
Hey, what's going on? How's LA?
It is it's empty for the most part. What a strange sensation, as Tyreek Hill said after the game, and I know Vahe and I have talked about it ever since we've been here. To fly into LAX, to drive to the stadium in 10 minutes, and to just be in a 1,000-seat, $5 billion stadium with no fans. Although Barbara Hedrick says she picked up the screaming female Chiefs fan on the TV broadcast. I do know, Barbara, that above the Chiefs sideline was the owner's box, and so Clark Hunt was there and Mark Donovan and Clark's, do you think, daughter, Vahe?
Yeah. She was out there the whole time. Others came and went, but she was out there the whole time.
Okay. So, Barbara,
so we talked about the players having to adjust because we could hear them on TV, but I guess we should have told the owner's family.
Make the adjustment. Yeah. So, Kyle Coffey suggests that, the Chargers had played without fans in its opening game. The Chiefs did not. It was an advantage to the Chargers for just having been in that environment. I don't know. I don't listen. I think it was more the Chargers defense that was keeping the Chiefs offense off balance. And Sam McDowell, I know that you had thoughts on the Chiefs offense and how difficult it was for wide receivers to, for plays to develop, and which to me, negates one of the Chiefs' strongest, abilities, and that's their speed. When Mahomes has, so little time to make a play, then, Hardman and Hill can't, it's difficult for them to get open. I know you talked to Andy Reid and Mahomes after the game about this.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw them, I thought, for maybe the first three quarters at least, intend to mimic last week's strategy, which worked. And we talked about that all throughout the week, that they were okay taking the underneath stuff because that's what the Texans were giving them last week. Well, the Chargers were playing two deep safeties again today, but the difference was they were putting so much pressure with just four guys that the underneath stuff wasn't open that quickly. And so we just saw a Chiefs offense, I thought, completely out of sync timing-wise. When you're getting to the we talk a lot about Ingram and Bosa, and rightfully so, but they had multiple guys getting pressure today. I mean, even when Mitchell Schwartz is giving up a sack, the Chiefs offensive line isn't playing all that well. And to see him give up a sack was just really bizarre, but sort of indicative of the way that things were going for this Chiefs offense. And Mahomes, to his credit, he took the blame for a lot of what was going wrong with the offense early on. But to me, the blame rested with, or maybe we should say credit, because that Chargers defensive line is really good. Maybe we should give them as much credit as we blame the Chiefs offensive line. But that was the difference for those three quarters. If we're sitting here talking about a Chiefs loss after the game, that's 75% of our focus right now.
Yeah, it was Bosa that beat Mitchell Schwartz. So you've got just two great players going after each other. But you're right, Sam. That's two games in a row that Mitchell Schwartz has surrendered a sack without having that happen to him at all last year, right? I mean, he
you're right.
16 games in the playoffs without surrendering a sack. Terrence Warren Robinson says he thinks the offensive line will be fine as long as they don't face defensive fronts this good. And I think that the Chargers will certainly be one of the better defensive fronts that the Chiefs see this year. How about the linebacker play, Herbie? What did you see? A lot of I saw missed tackles from linebackers and from others. We saw Dan Sorensen miss a tackle. Chris Jones missed a tackle. I can think back in the game of individual plays where they seem to be in a good position to make the tackle, and but linebackers have to make these. That's what they're there for, to make the tackle.
Blair, let's list the guys who did not miss a tackle just to keep this shorter.
Juan Thornhill missed a tackle on that first drive. I mean, it was just brutal defensive play, and I think what jumps out to me is when you miss those tackles, especially in the backfield, you don't stop the running back when you should 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It just opens it up so much more. And the Chargers actually ended that game gaining 183 yards and a touchdown on 44 attempts. And Eckler and Kelly Eckler had 93 yards rushing, Kelly had 64, and you got to make those tackles. Granted, Wilson and Hitchens were hurt. They got dinged up, so they had to go off to the side. And at one point, it was Ben Neiman, Willie Gay, and Dorian Daniel out there. But the linebackers got to step up here. You got to make those tackles in the open field when you have the opportunity. There's just no excuse for it. And Andy Reid, to Andy Reid's credit, he did address the tackling during his post-game Zoom call, and he said, "Hey, this is something that you see early in the season." So he's aware that it has to get cleaned up.
Hey, Blair, just to ask you and Vahe a question, because when you talk about the linebackers, Damian Wilson was involved in such an incredible hit on Justin Herbert, and he took the worst of it, it seemed like. And at least on TV, and of course that's how Herbie and I watched it today, I was shocked that he came back in the game after that hit he took. And I'm wondering at the game, could you guys feel more of the hits of the game, the contact of the game without fans there, without any other ambiance there?
Well, that hit in particular, I said this in the pregame and I was wrong. And the press box is enclosed; it's not an open press box, so you can't hear unless they pipe in the noise from the stadium. But the stadium's so new and the windows are so clean that it looks like there's you can see that it is an open air press box. So, but the thing that struck me about that particular hit were the Chiefs' teammates all waving to the sideline saying, "Get over here, quickly," because it happened in the front. It happened on the Chargers sideline, and Herbert just got right up, and Damian Wilson was on the ground, and all the Chiefs players were saying, "Come on, you got to come over here," like it was a serious, very serious injury. You think, I don't know, shoulder separation. Who knows what it could be? But I think he was back in on the same series. He was. And Hitchens looked like he had gotten a really bad hit, and both of them finished the game. Somebody mentioned that Willie Gay played a lot today. Certainly got defensive snaps. He didn't last week, and he made a difference on special teams. He got his hand on a punt, and even though the punt took a good Chargers bounce, but still for him to come in off the edge and get his hand on a punt, that's a good moment for him. We're kind of waiting for Willie Gay to show up in a bigger way, and he did at least with that today. So that was good to see from Willie Gay. But I mean, let's go back to Harrison Butker. So you think about in this Chiefs comeback, you got the All-Pro. You got the best quarterback in the NFL. You've got the fastest wide receiver making plays, and you've got a kicker that nobody else besides Baltimore has, right? In Harrison Butker. It took all of that for the Chiefs to overcome a sloppy start in a game that it looked like they were going to lose in after three quarters. And if I got that about right, I mean it took the stars making those types of plays for them to beat a Chargers team that that doesn't have a quarterback right now, right? It has a rookie quarterback or an injured starter. How does that bode for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the one play we saw on that touchdown from Mahomes to Tyreek Hill, which I'm sure you guys have already talked about, but that play was sort of reminiscent of the offense that we've come to know under Patrick Mahomes for 2 years. And I thought after that play, they got things going again. I thought that the offense looked more like the offense that we're familiar with because they scored the game-tying drive on the next drive. Remember, they didn't get the ball. The offense didn't get the ball back for 11 minutes after they scored that touchdown. Then they take it down for the game-tying drive, and then they score the game-winning drive. So maybe that's what gets this offense going, and that carries into week 3. Because obviously they're going to have to put up more points than they put up today, I think, next week when you look at who they're going to be facing.
Well, you think about some of the moments in the game that could have been big. Chris Jones had a big penalty when he went in low on Herbert, and it was a 3rd and 8. It would have been 4th down, yeah. Yeah, but it turns out they come back and get the stop there and do force the field goal. They just, they take more time off the clock a little bit. But I thought about that. I can't get past the offensive line penalties tonight. After playing with so much discipline against the Texans the previous game, for them to, holding after false starts. Poor Nick Allegretti, pushes Harrison Butker back another 5 feet on the game winner. I thought, poor guy, he's gonna, if they miss this because of that, that's how we're gonna know Nick Allegretti on this team.
Yeah, the one play that we haven't talked a lot about, maybe you guys did before I hopped on, but before that last drive, I'm shocked that the Chargers didn't go for it on 4th down, knowing all the things you just listed. They've got the stars all of a sudden playing well in the 4th quarter, and still they allow that offense coming back on the field, knowing just a field goal wins the game. To me, that was one of the very key plays of the game, was the Chargers taking their offense off the field on a 4th and 1 because of what we said. I mean, they're running. I mean, Herbie just cited their running stats. I mean, they were having no issues running the ball against this team.
I thought the Chargers were. I thought they made a mistake by not going for it on that 4th and 1. I think you got to you can't give the ball back to the Chiefs in that situation. So Victor Salazar with a very astute observation. I'll get to that in a moment. But before I do that, let's welcome in Sam Mellinger. Hey, Sam.
What's up, guys? I was last today.
So what'd you write, Sam?
I basically wrote that the Chiefs look like winning ugly is a skill, right? That's an important thing that only kind of the best teams in the league can do it. But the Chiefs need to not get in this situation all the time where they need this weekly miracle from Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? They are good enough that game should have been dusted, in the 3rd or 4th quarter. And, it's just a lot of, I'm sure, what you guys have been talking about, just little execution mistakes, all the penalties. The protection was not good. There was just a lot of mistakes that led up to that. And if the Chiefs are going to be what they want to be, which is, improving upon a team that was good enough to win the Super Bowl last year, they need to get away from this.
Geez, Sam, they've won 11 in a row. What else do you want?
I know, the old, this team's going nowhere, right? But you know what I mean? It's great you have these comebacks and everybody knows you can do it. But, at some point you don't want to get down 10 points every game, and then and be quiet on this. I mean, they've got a great team. We all know that. They've got a great team. They have every chance to win the Super Bowl. But, there's just, I guess the Chargers with this, rookie impromptu starter, and the defense doesn't get totally off the hook. I mean, this is more on the offense than the defense, but you can't give up 10 minutes in the 4th quarter on one drive. You got to get off the field. So anyway, it's a high level criticism, right? Reserved only for teams that are good enough to win the Super Bowl. But there's just. They need to get. It's fun for us, that they're in this situation and they keep having these games, right? But if you're going to win a Super Bowl, I just don't think you need to be relying on, these wild comebacks every week.
It's not fun if you're on a deadline, Melly. Get that right. It's not fun if you're on a deadline. We like when they blow teams out and it's easier.
Week one is good.
Hey, but we learned a valuable lesson this week. I think. Do you remember our SportsBeat show? On Thursday, we spent maybe 2 minutes previewing this game.
Yes, we did. That's right.
This was karma.
Yeah, we were accused of looking ahead to the Ravens, and
rightfully so. Obviously, rightfully so.
we knew what we were doing. But what is this? Chiefs are going to take a 2-0 record to Baltimore for Monday Night Football, and gosh, who in the NFL's looked better in 2 games than the Ravens have? So. That's sort of the kind of a measuring stick game for both Teams. Chiefs can't bring this game to Baltimore. I mean, they just
no. I do think it's worth emphasizing, right, that if the offense played like this, they would have lost this game 100 times out of 100 in 2018. and they also probably would have lost this game until the second half of last season. You know, in some ways, it's a little bit reminiscent of the Chargers game in Mexico City, although the defense played really well in that one, and that was when Dan Sorensen made the play at the end. But you know, again, there is some, you know, some benefits being able to win ugly, but I just feel like, you know, teams like starting next week with the Ravens, they've got the Saints, they've got some really good teams on that schedule. They're going to have to do better than this.
Yeah, Patriots after the after the Ravens. So and the Bills in Week 6. So they do. I think the no favors in the schedule early on. A few people have asked us if there are any updates on Frank Clark's illness. With the that's all it was listed as a stomach, but as we know, or at least listed as an illness, as we know, he's had stomach issues, and there's no update except to say that's why he ended up missing some time today because of an illness. So that's something to pay attention to going forward. All right, 2-0 Chiefs. I think before we get out of here, since we did cover this event live to the best we could, we'll get Vahe, if we can get his mask straightened out, to just share a little bit of the experience here of covering a game.
It looks like it was a really comfortable experience.
And because he doesn't have his earphones in, he hasn't heard a word we've said.
So what were you saying?
All compliments. All compliments.
Yeah. I don't like Springsteen either, guys.
All right, Vahe, while you're doing the maintenance work there, just thumbnail the experience of covering a game in this stadium and what once fans come back, what they're going to have to look forward to at SoFi Stadium.
Well, it's a pretty impressive place. I'm just doing this because I can't be heard. It's a pretty impressive place, but I think that I don't know if you felt like this, Blair, but by the time the game got going, I sort of stopped noticing there weren't fans. I just sort of was like watching the game. So we'll see. I think it was a real oddity for the Chiefs, though, and it's completely true that both teams had to deal with the same thing. But I think that the combination of that sort of Justin Herbert and they were just off balance from the start. I think not just disoriented by the whole experience. And sounds silly probably, but I think they'll be better off for it having this one under their belt.
Yeah, maybe. And think about this: they get Mike Pennell back next week. I think that's significant. We could be seeing Charvarius Ward. Listen, I think about this, and maybe it's something we can talk about on Thursday. But look, one thing we did notice is that the players were gassed at the end of this game. I think under any circumstance, when you play an overtime game and deep into overtime, you're going to be tired. But other players mentioned it after the game. They were just absolutely exhausted by the end of this game. And I think that's also, it's a matter of having no preseason, and you just go from training camp into a season, and just the whole different way, the different approach to the NFL season this year. So you're just going to have to kind of build your stamina as you go on through the year. And the Chiefs have had what a goofy schedule, right? They play a Thursday, a Sunday, a Monday. They're not going to have a normal prep week until after, after the Patriots game and their fourth game. Then I think they play the following Sunday. That'll be the first time this season they go from a Sunday to a Sunday, and it's just odd. The whole thing's just odd. No fans in the stands, no training camp, not all this. It was just it's just different, and yet quite an entertaining game today. I mean, just from an entertainment standpoint, what an excellent game. So let's do some final takeaways from this. Sam McDowell, what bottom line this day for the Chiefs, and what it means going forward?
Well, I mean, obviously, what stands out to me the most is the offensive production through these first two games. They've only completed one pass that has traveled 20 yards in the air the entire season. Now, that one pass, I think, is what won them the game today. I just thought that play flipped the game, and I realized they still got to make another drive and tie the game. They still got to get a stop in overtime. But that was the reminder that this offense still can be what we saw last year. And just one final point on that, going into today, 3 of Patrick Mahomes' worst 5 yardage outputs were against this Chargers team. So I think we need to take this under, in that perspective, not to think that, hey, this offense is struggling against a bad team just because they were a team that get barely squeaked by Cincinnati. They've got a good defense, and I just think that needs to be put in that perspective as well.
Okay. How about you, Melly?
Yeah. Again, I guess I'm sort of myself a little bit, but like the ability to win ugly is important, and nobody gets through a season winning enough games to get to the playoffs while only winning when they're playing well, right? You've got to be able to do that. The Chiefs did that in the playoffs last season. But I do think that, the execution, it took me off guard, I guess, because like week 1, we talked about it, 1 penalty. Everything was efficient as hell. And then it was a step back this week for whatever reason. And, they got to get that stuff cleaned up if they want to get to where they want to get to.
Okay. All right, Pete, what say you?
I'm just always impressed. They made the adjustments when they needed to. They were off kilter for so long, but the last 3 drives, right, were all scoring drives. They moved the ball like they needed to, and I just give Reed and the enemy credit. They figured out what they needed to do. And like Sam said, winning ugly is important. I think 11 penalties this week is too many, and that's something you can work on.
Right. Okay, Herbie. What do you got, Herbie?
2 takeaways. To your point on fatigue, we got to remember, keep in mind in the COVID environment, the Chiefs traveled late. So they didn't arrive into LA until last night. Whereas in years past, pre-COVID, they would get in earlier. So I'm sure like traveling across 2 time zones may have affected how they performed today because their biological clocks didn't really kick in like it normally would in past. I'm going to step outside the box here, and I'm going to say Justin Herbert is going to be a problem for the Chiefs when he becomes really established, maybe down the road when he takes over as a full-time starter. But the kid impressed the hell out of me today. 311 yards today. Being told during pregame warm-ups, hey, you're getting ready to start against the Super Bowl champs. That was pretty darn impressive what he was able to do out there today.
No doubt about it. All right, Vahe, what you got?
Well, we know that the Chiefs have won, I guess, 4 of the last 6 now, having been down double digits, right, if you include the playoffs. And friend of the star, Michael McCambridge, looked this up and points out that Mahomes is 6-0 in games since last season, 6-0 in games in which the Chiefs trailed by 10 points or more. So I think that's a pretty good takeaway from where this stands. Now, I know Sam Mellinger, I think you were going to get into a little bit the whole question of whether you're just going to keep riding the Mahomes thing, but they do have him.
Yeah, Sam was thinking about other quarterbacks sometime in the third quarter today. This game reminded me of a couple other games in recent history. I thought, even though when they were at Detroit last year, Herbie, that was the first game you covered as the beat writer. I thought Chiefs played terribly that game, and it turns out that Lions team, ended up winning 3-12-1 or something like that. But they were still good then, and it was such a struggle. There a lot of turnovers in that game. It wasn't the case here, but I just remember the Chiefs finding a way to win games that in which they don't seem to play very well. But the other thing, I also remember the Colts game from last year, still one of the more inexplicable losses of the last 2 years, when the Jacoby Brissett came into Arrowhead Stadium and brought the Colts to a victory and kept the Chiefs off the field for much of the game and really frustrated Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And so, but at the end of the third quarter, I'm thinking, well, this game could go either way. In both cases, the Chiefs didn't play well. One they lost and one that they won. But I don't know, man. If you've got the quarterback, and again, you've got the best quarterback in the game, and you've got a guy like Tyreek Hill, and you've got the best kicker, maybe one of the 2 best kickers in the NFL. I think that improves your chances immensely of winning games that seemingly are, for whatever reason, are toss-up type games, and that bodes well for the Chiefs. So, okay, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. I know Vahe and I got to get out of the press box here pretty soon. Want to thank Beth Welch and Monty Davis for running the show tonight and doing all the legwork with the video and some audio as well. And follow the coverage of the Chiefs in the print editions of the Kansas City Star and on kansascity.com. And thank you for joining us on SportsBeat Live from Inglewood, California. Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners, unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening.
Let's start with Pete Sweeney. Go ahead, Pete.
Harrison, an unreal job at the end there where you had to have the 3 kicks. I was wondering what was going through your mind as you had to do it 3 times and then the eventual game winner.
I think I just got a little bit more angry every kick. So the first one, I thought they called timeout, and then I realized it was a false start. But going into the second one, they called timeout again. So in my head, that's 2 timeouts. And then I think I even looked at the Chargers sideline because I was like, come on, man, I'm trying to finish this game and get back to Kansas City. So that third one, I felt like was my best kick. And, I mean, to have 2 practice kicks before that is only going to help you. And I'm just really happy that we were able to stay through from the blocked extra point. We have a great field goal unit, James Winchester and Tommy holding the ball, and we were able to put it through, but that's stuff that we do in practice, and we were able to transfer it over to the game.
Let's go next to Blair Kerkhoff. Go ahead, Blair.
Hey Harrison, did just kicking on this field in a new stadium, did you get any pregame knowledge that helped you in the game?
Not really pregame knowledge, but during the week I did a little research and read an article that the turf in SoFi Stadium was the same turf used for the Texans and the Cowboys stadiums. And I thought I had good games whenever we kicked there as well. So I wasn't too worried. And then after the first couple kicks, I was used to the turf. I think it's really nice. It almost feels like you're kicking on grass. I felt really good today, and I had a great warm-up and then was able to continue that in the game.
Let's go next to Sam Mellinger. Go ahead, Sam.
Hey, Harrison, you just used the term like 2 practice kicks before the third one. I know you have no choice but to look at it as a positive, but when teams try to ice you like that, I mean, do you feel more confident the next time you get a swing at it?
I think every kicker's different. I definitely felt more confident. The 53-yarder, I didn't like the way it kind of curved left. I made an adjustment with Tommy as far as our aiming point. We aimed farther right for the 58-yarder, but the 58-yarder is a longer kick. I swung a little harder, and that one kind of hugged the left upright. And then for that last kick, I had the same aiming point, and I think I just slowed down my leg swing a little bit and hit a better rotating ball and a better ball, and I thought it went down pretty much the middle.
Let's go next to Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Harrison, hey, congratulations. You remember we talked about your maybe increased range when camp started, if you remember. Do you feel like the things you did in the offseason enabled you to the Chiefs maybe to be confident in you trying these kinds of kicks? And do you feel like you maybe would have made these kicks earlier in your career, even last season?
Last season, I don't know if I would have been as consistent from that distance. If you look back to 2017 against the Texans, same turf, like I said, 49-yarder at the end of the game, barely made it over. So I definitely have a stronger leg than I did in 2017. Last year I had a pretty strong leg, but did not have the accuracy. This offseason, I was able to make a lot of long kicks, and then going into training camp, I really wanted to show the coaches I could be consistent from that distance. I thought I was in training camp, and then a day like today where you're indoors, basically no wind, I was able to hit from 67 before the game and 70 at halftime. Coach Tobe knew that, and he told Coach Reed that if we get to the 40-yard line, we'll be good. That'd be a 58-yarder, and I can just swing easy. I don't need to change anything. But last year, I don't think I would have made all three of those. Hopefully, I would have made the last one, but I definitely feel stronger and more accurate this season.
We've got time for a couple more. Let's go Darren and then Nate. Go ahead, Darren. Darren, you got us?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, Harrison, congratulations. I know you've tied Nick Lowry twice today on his franchise record. Look, according to what you were saying earlier, what you did in the offseason by training, by kicking longer field goals, that allows you to, in essence, strengthen your leg and strengthen how far you can kick. If you could have done it from further than 58, how much confidence did they have? And then also talk about the fact that you were able to tie the franchise record today twice.
As I said, I made the 70-yarder at halftime. I told Coach Tobe that, so he was feeling confident. So I'd say if it was on the 52-yard line or the 48-yard line, that'd be a 70-yard field goal. I would have felt good making that kick. I don't know if Coach Reed would have let me, but if it was the end of the game situation, a long fourth down, I would have felt confident going into that. And then, I didn't know that Nick Lowry had the record for 58 yards. I'm fortunate to be a part of a great organization. I was able to make 56 yards last year, and now at 58, I guess I got to break the record and beat Nick Lowry. Hopefully next week, Monday Night Football.
Let's go to Nate Taylor to close us out. Go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Harrison, just wanted to ask you, because the Chiefs are so known for scoring touchdowns, you obviously wanted to be a part of the offense. I just wonder, how much do you think people around the country, around the football industry are understanding your element to the offense, where once they get past midfield, you can obviously come into play? And then how much of that was your thought process this offseason to be an addition to the offense in that sort of way?
I've been accurate throughout my career, 2017, 2018, 2019. I think for me to take it to the next level, I have to have some longer kicks. In 2018, my long was 54, which is okay, kind of middle of the park. Last year, making a 56-yarder was big. But now, as I said, I feel comfortable from 58 and beyond. I think that's what I got to start doing to separate myself from the rest of the kickers in the league, is start making longer field goals, and I feel confident doing that. And obviously, I'm super thankful for Coach Tobe and Coach Reed for trusting me and letting us attempt those long field goals.
That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Randy Mason, Beth Welsh, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. Links to stories about the Chiefs' victory over the Chargers can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Hey, earlier in the episode, you heard me talk about the Sports Pass offer. It still stands and still a good one, $30 for a year's worth of sports coverage, and that includes Sports Extra that comes with the e-edition. There's more than 50 additional pages of national sports coverage today, but here's an even better offer. Buy the entire Kansas City Star product, sports news, features, commentary, the whole bit. You get all the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details are at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. That's account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Tuesday with another episode.